Well, hello guys. This is the third part of the video where we get into or goes in depth in terms of what Angelina is all about, Angelina Jordan. First of all, I have to say a thousand thanks to all those who've just written and posted comments on the two first videos. It's not just that there were many different answers, but you also wrote so much, and it was so interesting. And I think I've read all of the comments here, and just fascinating. Um, I would just like to make clear from the start, I might stand corrected in the sense that I did perhaps use the word shyness and introversion interchangeably. I didn't really mean to. Um, I am definitely still. I'm really adamant about that. Angelina is an introvert, even though there was someone in the comment field who said that she probably wasn't, which to me is quite surprising. But never mind. Um, but there is a huge difference between shyness and introversion in the sense that introversion is sort of a part of your personality, uh, regardless of any outer circumstances. Whereas when it comes to shyness, that has more like a direct link to bad experience with other people or a fear of other people. Um, I haven't really made up my mind whether she is shy or not. I think to some extent maybe she is. And she's also said once in an interview that she's been bullied, at least to some extent. Now it's very hard to know anything when it comes to articles in newspapers and so on and so forth. But I know that when people try to stand out, particularly in Norway, I saw that someone mentioned what is called jante, the law of jante, which means that you shouldn't stand out. You should be like everybody else, or else you'll get negative comments on it. But she has definitely stood out from a very early age, and she might have got negative response to that. So in that sense, maybe she has become a bit shy and a bit aloof when it comes to different people. But first and foremost, I think she is introverted and shy. Now, to get into all details when it comes to what introversion truly is, I just don't have a time for all of that, and it's very complicated. But what you could say is that introversion has a lot to do with how you get your energy, what you get your energy from. If you get your energy from your outer surroundings and other people, whether you need time to be alone to sort of load your batteries and keep within your own head in order to meet the outer world. So there is a difference. But here's the point. Last time, and you can watch it on my second part of this video kind of sequel, that I sort of guessed that she might be in the so-called INFJ, INFP field. I pointed that out last time. But I had no clue that there was written a page about it. So one day it just hit me. Well, maybe I can just write Angelina Jordan and personality in Google and just see what happens then. And voila! Now this page turned up. This is called the Personality Database, and you can see here Angelina Jordan, INFP, and that really fits my pre-beliefs. It's even written down here. You can see she's 100% introverted. This isn't an exact science, but it's just a good guess, right? 100% introverted, 86% intuitive, 100% feeling or sensitive, and her perception is like 86%. There's never like anything is binary here. It's just a degree of whether you're one thing or the other. And the reason why I didn't really diverge between INFJ and INFP is that these two personality types are very hard to distinguish unless you really go into depth. They might look the same. So what is truly the difference between the two? Let's have a further look at that. I have a page here where it's written that if you go to the first thing written here on this page, it's called introvertdare.com. On the surface, the INFJ and the INFP personalities appear very similar. These two introverted Myers-Briggs personality types are both creative, idealistic, and focused on helping others. But in other ways, they're practically opposites. One that can make a big difference. Now let's see. And the first thing pointed out here is the analytical versus the artistic. Now, you should be aware and remember that I am personally, I've taken numerous different type of personality tests myself, and I've studied the matter quite a lot. And each time I turned out an INFJ. That is said to be the rarest personality types of them all. So I've always felt more or less like an outcast, but never mind that. Let's just go on. INFJs see the world mainly through the lens of the introverted intuition, which is a perceiving function. Perceiving functions are open and exploratory in nature. The opposite of a perceiving function is a judging function, which is all about reaching conclusions and implementing plans. Although INFJs are considered a judging personality, they actually lead with a perceiving function. This perceiving function is introverted, so it's mostly hidden from others. The second function, extroverted feeling, is a judging function that is expressed outwardly. And, trying to avoid to make this all too complicated, you just have to understand that INFPs are the opposite, okay? As a result, this is where it becomes really interesting. INFJs appear more structured, rigid, and analytical, whereas INFPs appear more open, spontaneous, and artistic. Hence, I'll go into further detail in a moment, but just remember the word artistic is being used about Angelina's personality type. It also means that INFJs feel more artistic than they appear. Now, you should also remember that, and I've tried to commit art in my time. It's not something that I feel very comfortable about showing to others. I try to hide all the artistic sides of me. I feel more artistic than I appear. There is also another thing which is quite interesting about the INFJs, and that is that they tend to be, like it said, very analytical. They seek insight. The favorite topics is to read and write. What they tend to read and write about is psychology, personal growth, spirituality, current events, fictional stories, and so on and so forth. And listen to this. This fits with the INFJ's tendency to observe, notice patterns, and make deductions. Now, guys, I haven't read this page before I created my channel. What's the name of my channel, guys? The Observer, right? You see how it fits? It's just insane how this personality type of system fits unconsciously. And so these type of patterns that Angelina inhabits, they are done unconsciously, and she can't help it. And it's really, and that's also one of the points I'm trying to make, because introverted people in different flavors within the introversion typology are looked upon as outcasts, or looked upon as strange, and looked upon as one or the other. And that's so unfair. But it's not because it's not a question of choice. It's something we're born to be, or anyway evolved to be, you know? And I feel it's almost to the same degree as telling, a black person to be less black, or you know what I mean. If you were to say that, you would be a racist. So when you tell someone that you shouldn't be so much, don't be so introverted, people usually don't say that. You shouldn't be so shy, or you shouldn't be so aloof, or you should be social, you should be this or that. Actually, they're attacking some type of personality traits that are really hard to do anything about, and that there's no real reason to change it either. We just need a world that understands the introverted society, or the introverted individuals better, more acceptance. That's what I'm trying to say. And I will, in a very short moment, go into 2 other artists that have been linked to, or at least one of them. There was a link in one of the descriptions below my video. And yet another that I want to mention myself. So, voila, guys. It seems like I've hit the jackpot, right? I said that she was most definitely an INFP, or at least I wasn't sure about the INFJ, INFPs, but that really fits, because I don't think she has my personality type. She's different. And one of the reasons, or one of the traits that you could, or that is revealed through her interviews, is that she's very open about her emotions. Now, she is a woman, or she's a girl, and they tend to be much more open and more at ease with their own feelings. But still, I think there's a difference also when it comes to the personality types. She wears her heart on a sleeve to a much higher degree than I would. I hide my feelings, and she sort of, exhibit them. And she has a very strong focus against it. Now, there's another thing, or there's another personality typology as well, and that is called the Enneagram. Now, it's written here that she's a type 4. Again, it's much too complicated for me to get into all those different explanations in terms of what is an Enneagram and so on and so forth. But it is that human beings are divided into 9 different types. And the type 4, from 3, 4, and let's see, I think it's 2, 3, and 4. They are the heart types. Okay, they think through their emotions. There's a clue there. And there's also signs talking about that you have that sort of like brain cells is found in your heart and in your gut. But I cannot go into all these kind of details. But the thing I would like to point out is that I'm also a type 4, the artistic type. Okay, but it's written here on this page at least that she's a 4-wing 3. Someone also made a guess that she's a 9-wing 1, but that's another story. But a 4-wing 3. Now, 3 is a heart person, and 4 is a heart type as well. So she has both. She's very connected to her heart. Now, I, on the other hand, am a 4-wing 5. That means that I have the artistic feeling type of personality, but I'm connected to the intellect. So I tend to intellectualize my own feelings. I tend to intellectualize human emotions to a much higher degree. So it's not all feeling and expression with me. It's more like intellectualization. Oh, that's a difficult word. And system based. It's much more system based. Much more, yeah, basically intellectual, academic, maybe. So back to the link that was posted underneath my video. That was Aurora. If we can just find it, it's here. Now, in this video, Aurora talks. Aurora is another Norwegian artist that have reached much acclaim around the world. Actually, these days, her old material is starting to pick up again. She has about 1 million hits, I think, today on 1 million hits each day on Spotify. So that's quite a lot. And in this particular video that was linked, she talks about her childhood. She talks about her personality. And she also starts talking about how introverted people should kind of like stand up for themselves, or that you should fight for your introverted traits, and that school doesn't really fit for people like her. Now, in this interview, you can see that sometimes she gets kind of awkward at times and not feel at ease, and that she also had to practice before making an interview with this interviewer. But well, she calms down eventually, and she speaks quite fluently. But it's really interesting to see her point out her own introversion and her self-proclaimed, I should say, awkwardness. Just take a few minutes, or a few moments at least, to listen to it. Let's see.
About love or love songs, because I've been so busy about writing about everything else that's happening in the world, because I care very deeply about people and the planet, and
she cares very deeply about the planet and people. She is an empath, okay?
About political matters that's happening, and emotional inequalities in the world, and it's there is a lot of things to be inspired by out there, but it's personal also, because you do take the what do you call it, the injustice out there quite personal, because it is personal. So beliefs about injustice.
Okay, so she takes the injustice of the world personally. Okay, so she processes the outer world inside through her emotions. I cannot go through the whole video. It lasts for 1 hour and 13 minutes, but you should check out this video, perhaps, if you can. She talks about introversion, she talks about standing out, and so many other things that are extremely interesting. Now, let's go to the personality page of Aurora, because a page has been made, and she is said to be an INFP. Now, she is labeled as a 9 wing 1. Again, it's too complicated to go into all details about the Enneagram. Some even say that she is a 4 wing 5. I personally don't think so. It's, of course, extremely hard for me to say without knowing her personally, and I don't, even though we are almost practically neighbors. I haven't met her in my life, so I can't say, but I wouldn't necessarily say that she inhibits the same type of personality as me. It might be, but I don't really know. I think maybe she could be a 4 wing 3. Again, they tend to wear the hearts on their sleeve to a much higher degree than a 4 wing 5. Typically, let's show you the difference, at least, between a 4 wing 5 and a 4 wing 3 by a few examples that everybody knows. Michael Jackson, he would be the perfect 4 wing 3. Okay? Very emotional, very open about his emotions, sensitive, doesn't shy away from sappy anything that's quite sappy, you know. The typical 4-wing-5 would be Leonard Cohen, okay? And you have to think think about the contrast between Michael Jackson's music and Leonard Cohen's music. An easy way to put it, 4-wing-5s are much more intellectual. They intellectualize their emotions. It's a much more quiet type of a 4. Just let me put it that way. I'm sure that it could have been explained so much better, and I'm sure that some of the words that I choose now aren't the best ones, but I'm really trying hard to just go on and make this into a video, and I cannot make all types of I cannot defend myself in every aspect. This is not a doctoral thesis or anything like that. It's just me rambling about. There is also another artist, female artist, that I had an extreme, let's just say it like it is, I had an extreme infatuation with that woman in my teens. That is Björk. Björk Guðmundsdóttir, something like that. It's as it's pronounced in Icelandic. Björk. She, I was so fascinated by her as a person. I was so fascinated about her music. It was just crazy. Now, what does she have in common with Angelina Jordan and Aurora? Well, let's have a look at her personality type. INFP. Once more, I seem to be very drawn to INFPs. I don't know if I find some similar traits or what it is, but it's just, I find INFPs really fascinating. Particularly, I should say women, maybe. I don't know. But there is also another thing about INFPs as artists. You know, Angelina Jordan, one of her newest songs, Million Miles. She writes about her late grandfather, okay? How many pop artists today write about their late grandfathers? Just let that hang there for a moment. I'm just posing a question. I'm not really looking for an answer. And Björk, at least on some of her later material, she writes about viruses. She writes about how a virus infects a cell. So this isn't your love this baby baby and that, love this and that baby baby. No, it's at a completely different level. And I'm drawn to deep things. But there's another aspect about this as well, because I usually, when it comes to art, I have a bit of a problem when things become too elitistic or pretentious. And Björk was very concerned about pointing out that she made pop music. It wasn't for intellectual people, it was for everyone. Now, these days, there might be sort of like a different story. She writes about viruses. She incorporates, Arnold Schoenberg, the second Vienna school, into her music. It's highly complex, but at the same time, she manages to keep or hold on to the pop aspect of it. It's not, if you made an analytical approach to her music, I mean, from a music theory point of view, you could see that she uses elements that are connected to the minimalist movement in music these days, minimalistic composers. It's, again, very hard to explain, but it's really interesting to see the chord structures and how all of a sudden, for instance, she has a song that's called In a Hidden Place, and some on YouTube, very interesting video, made a comment about things being written in a certain key, but the key wasn't there. It's in a hidden, the key is in a hidden place. It's so deep, but on the surface, it looks so easy. And I'm so fascinated about art forms that looks so easy on the surface, but there's so much more underneath the layer. Now, maybe I shouldn't have pointed this out so early, but now it's done. And I think there is an element towards Angelina Jordan's art. She puts an extra layer to the things she does. Maybe it's just me, but when she did at 10 years old, which is just in itself insane, she did a version of Every Time We Say Goodbye. Now that is an expression of bitter sweetness, okay? And this was at the same time as she was moving from Norway. So what I think and feel is that when she sings, a lot of times she puts an autobiographical aspect into her singing. You know, it's not just singing a song. She puts her own personality, her own personal experiences from an insanely early age into her singing. Now she sings about bittersweetness. Of course, she is sad about leaving Norway, but at the same time, she's really excited about what comes next because she's moving to the States and she's on to a new, like a roller coaster ride maybe, right? When she came, and this is something that I learned from Ivan Mendes on one of the videos on YouTube, where he pointed out that they had just recently arrived to the States when she did this. Just listen.
How the leaves are brown and the skies are grey.
This is so beautiful and so incredible. And she takes an upbeat song, at least on the surface, it's an upbeat song, and she slows it down, and it becomes so melancholic. And I thought about this many times, but she is perhaps the one who dreams about California in a winter's day. Maybe Norway, it's a cold country, right? It's an autobiographical aspect once again. And if you think in these terms, you know, this extra layer that sort of comes to the surface, it submerges, and all of a sudden, wow, just incredible. I don't know if this is just accidental, but if she has that type of meaning, well, let me ask you this question. Who made this arrangement? Her grandmother? Her uncle? Her mother? Her sister? Very unlikely. She made this version of California Dreaming. Never before has it been done that way. She made that arrangement herself. Maybe at the spur of the moment almost, right? And this is what really points out that she's a true musical genius. Because she puts her own, it's an autobiographical approach to the songs that she performs. There's an extra layer that you don't understand until you've made some research. And this is from a child. Guys, you know, I get almost emotional thinking about it because it's just so incredible. I've never seen anything like this before in my life, guys. You know? I just have to compose myself for a minute there because it's just so mind-boggling. It just blows me away thinking about it. I don't even know if this is just accidental, but I hardly believe so, to be honest. This is art. This is what art is all about. And I'm so deeply drawn to and fascinated by those who have an extra layer beneath the surface. Everything looks so easy on the surface, but underneath, That's where you have to go in order to understand what it all sort of encapsulates. Okay? Now, once again, this is even Mandas in the video pointing out that she slows things down. One of my favorite directors is David Lynch. One of my favorite movies because he's made, I would say, quite a lot of extroverted, very surreal movies. And also the TV series Twin Peaks that, I had a lot of nightmares in my childhood of that, but that's another story. But one of my favorite movies is so different from what he usually does, and that is A Straight Story. Now, Straight Story is about a guy who drove through from one state to the other in the United States on his lawnmower. This is supposedly a true story, and the guy who played Straight is the last name of the main character. He suffered from deep pain because he suffered from cancer, so he struggled with deep pain when he acted in the movie. The whole movie is so slow paced, but it's so enjoyable to watch, and it gives me associations to Angelina's approach to music in the way she slows things down and makes you listen. Because today everything is so fast paced that we forget to think, We sort of like, our minds are just paralyzed because there's so much things going on. We don't have time to breathe anymore. And another thing that was between the conversation between Alan Papier and Eva Mendes is how much her family, how important family is to Angelina and in her life. And this is one of my favorite quotes from The Straight Story, where, Straight talks about family. Just listen to this.
When my kids were real little, I used to play a game with them. I'd give each one of them a stick and one for each one of them. And I'd say, you break that. Of course they could, real easy. Then I'd say, tie them sticks in a bundle, try to break that. Of course they couldn't. Then I'd say, that bundle, that's family.
Now you can break a stick. You put several sticks in a bundle and it's impossible to break. That bundle, that's family. I think Angelina has understood, I know that she has understood how much her family means to her during these very pressing times that she's going through, right? There's a lot of pressure in Angelina's life. She's going to make the next hit. She's going to be liked by everyone. But she has family. And they don't let you down because they know you. They are there with you. They are there for you. Not for your voice. Not for your looks. Not for your anything. They're there for you. If you fail miserably, they'll still be there, hopefully. At least that is hopefully the case. But she's understood the value of family. And that is what makes her so strong. And that is also why, even though she's introverted, maybe she's shy, maybe she struggles with a lot, seems as though at times that's what I am made to believe at times when I read her lyrics, when I read the comments she makes to the press, that she struggles a bit with, at least with sad thoughts, maybe even depression at times. This is what makes it, coping. So kudos to her family and kudos to Angelina for doing what she's doing. Now, there's another thing that I would like to point out when it comes to Angelina and the way she portrays or the way she transmits art, and that is that she has an incredible ability to tell a story. And I think that storytelling is one of the things that really lacks in the art, in artistic expressions these days. The other day, I saw a really interesting video on YouTube about ballet and how it has changed. I'm not trying to portray myself as an expert in ballet, but I just made so much sense that back in the days, what is ballet? Is it a dance? Well, maybe, but it's just as much a play, an art form on stage where instead of speaking, you are talking with your movements. You are telling a story through bodily movements. That is what ballet truly is. It's a theatre. And it's about stories. Now, the ballerina who talked throughout the movie said that these days it's so much more about tricks. It's so much more about that specific movement, or it's almost like a circus act. And it takes you away from what's really important, what really art is all about, and that is storytelling, It's going to tell you a story about something. Most ballets, originally, they were connected to a story, whether it's Cinderella or whether it's, Black Swan or whatever. And I truly feel that Angelina is so extremely good when it comes to telling the story. It's not just fragmented elements of, vocalistic pyrotechnics. She doesn't do a run just for the sake of doing a run, or she doesn't sing with a breathy tone just because, listen to me, I'm so good at singing breathy tones and I can belt out that note there, and so on and so forth. That's why it moves me in such a profound way when she, from a very early age, managed to give her own rendition, highly personal renditions of jazz classics. Okay. Now, just to conclude this video, I would just like to take you through a few songs in the end. Now, she has moved a bit away from standard jazz. She's now more into the pop industry, which is fine. I support anything she does. But for me, first and foremost, she is a crooner, and she'll always be one of the most incredible jazz crooners throughout history of jazz. But if she wants to make pop music, well, that's up to her. I can perfectly understand the critique that sometimes is posed against Angelina. For instance, when it comes to, a bit sloppy diction, she's very relaxed in the mouth when she sings, and that has probably, an impact on her diction at times. So she could have been a bit more particular when it comes to pronouncing words clearly, at times at least. That's one thing. Another thing is that usually or traditionally, the soft voice was her forte and not the belting voice. Now, she has proved later that she can do both, but several people have pointed out the Whitney Houston video where she kind of struggled on the top notes. And I agree. I can see the problem. It has something to do with the embouchure. That's just the lip placement. I think that's one of the reasons why she struggles somewhat there at the top, because she tends to take the corners of her mouth vertically, right? I think it's called vertically. No, horizontally, like this, yes. And I can even feel how it infects the way I speak now when I do this. She had that tendency. That's a sign of strain. That's one thing. But guys, and please remember, I'm not trying to put anyone down, but I'm going now to compare her voice with Connie Talbot's voice. I think Connie Talbot is enormously talented. I think she's great, and I think the music she makes is incredible. But still, just for the sake of comparison, just listen. She's a girl. She's a girl here, and Angelina is a girl when she makes her rendition. Listen to the difference.
Share my life, take me for what I am, 'cause I'll never change all my colors for you.
Okay, so she sounds like a girl her age, which is normal, right? And I would like to point out she struggles less with the high notes than Angelina, but still, what about all the other notes? A song isn't just about the top notes, it's about all notes. It's about, the whole song from A to Z. Now listen, guys.
Share my life, take me for what I am, 'cause I'll never change all my colors for you.
Okay. So she's 13 here, I think. Just recently turned 13. I don't know how Connie Talbot is here. She's an amazing singer, and she has all the capabilities of becoming a huge star. But still, she sounds like a girl. Angelina doesn't sound like a girl. She sounds like a fully fledged artist at the age of 13. That in itself is quite incredible. And I was thinking about the last songs that she's posted to YouTube. One of them is All I Ask, the Adele cover. And I was kind of thinking there's something about the production that makes the sound a bit harsh in my ears. That the top notes are a bit too harsh, and also that she closes a tad too much down on the vowels. For my taste. And I was thinking, okay, maybe these top notes is a bit too much. I'm not 100% satisfied with her version of All I Ask and so on. I know people love it all over the place, but it kind of annoyed me a bit. And then I started listening to Adele, the legend Adele. Now, guys, listen to this. I'm not going to put All I Ask version of Angelina up here. You can listen. You can go to it yourself, but just listen to this. Once again, guys, I'm not trying to put Adele down in any way, any shape or form. But her choices in the top register is so strange. She shouts, and she's even flat at times. It's not on key. And she's supposed to be a legend, a legendary singer. Now, I can understand why she gets vocal nodules when she sings like that, because her choices. This is the air that flows from her lungs. It's called the subglottal pressure is much too high, and also what is called the embouchure, her placement. The vowel becomes much too open. She doesn't have the ability to protect her voice when she sings like that. Of course, it's much more complicated at times and it's much more nuanced, but I don't understand the choice she's making here. And then you could criticize Angelina for being a tad too harsh on the top notes, but at least, I mean, this is the result of Adele singing that song. Just play a bit more. And that scream that she makes, it's so harsh on the vocal folds. This is the opposite of what you're supposed to do. Now, listen when Angelina sings vocal fry, she really has it. She's gotten around to that technique. It's such a healthy way. So I'm sorry, guys, but Adele is really not adding up to Angelina's singing, and she's just a teenager. How famous can Angelina become? Well, only time will tell. I think it's unfortunate that she doesn't get wider exposure. Hopefully, she will. But she needs to get into those TV host programs. She needs to be part of that rat race. There's no way around it, I think. Unless, of course, she creates a huge, huge fan base. Now, I just want to point out that one of my favorite bands when I was a child, like 9, 10 years old, was Iron Maiden. They were never played on the radio. They were never anywhere, right? They didn't get any type of exposure in mainstream media. Yet today, they are one of the greatest hard rock bands that has ever existed. So it's possible. But it's very hard without the huge exposure. Now, for instance, Aurora has been all over the place in all types of American TV programs, and she's interviewed everywhere, and she was even singing at the Oscar finals. So I don't know. I don't know how famous she'll be. I just hope that she'll get as famous as she wants, because there's no point in fame for the sake of fame, you know. But I just want the voice to be heard throughout the world. Another thing that Angelina, just to conclude here, in conclusion, and we really see eye to eye on things in this respect. She wants to bring back the old school cool, you know, the old school aesthetics. She wants to bring it back again, let's put it that way. And I feel the exact same thing because, you know, I really adore watching an old Hitchcock movie, much more so than modern movies. And it's not just about the content. They really knew how to tell a story back then, but also the aesthetics. It's just so amazing. And I could just enjoy it so much when I watch the old aesthetics and how things were, how classy things were back then. And Angelina has this incredible gift to make old things current again. It's just like Simon said in AJT, that she took an old song and made it current. And what she does is actually, and you can just see what kind of fans she gets, all ages, but perhaps first and foremost, a bit older people. She kind of fills the gap between generations. She builds a bridge between younger and older generations. And hopefully, I truly hope that she will reach out, or that, her type of generation will get an interest in the old classics. That's my true hope for the future. Okay, this has been a roller coaster ride from top to bottom here. I've really tried to be succinct and to the point, but I can see that it hasn't been all too easy. This is perhaps, I don't know, we'll just have to wait and see, but for now, this is my final word. So take care, stay safe, and bye.